So, statistics means all those facts and figures which were collected by the state, whatever can be quantified or which can be expressed in numbers, only that we can take it as statistics. So, if there is a lot of demand for a particular product, then automatically the price of that particular product will shoot up. Statistics was regarded as a byproduct of administrative activities of the state. Hello everyone, I am Purnima, faculty in the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. I welcome you all to the session 1, unit 1 of the first chapter, Introduction to Statistics. So, introduction. So, now let us just examine from where we got the word statistics. The word statistics seems to have been derived from the Latin word status, or the Italian word statista, or the German word statistic, or the French word statistic. Each of means a political. It is not a new discipline, but it is as old as the human society in good old days. The term statistics was applied to a branch of statecraft. So, the word statistics means a political state. So, it is derived from the Latin word status or the Italian word statista. So, status or statista, everything, it may mean a political state. So, as such, the term statistics was applied to mean facts and figures which were needed by the state in its day-to-day life. So, statistics means all those facts and figures which were collected by the state. For example, the state had to keep a number or a record of the number of births and deaths in the state, and it also had to keep a record of the number of beneficiaries who are making use of the various schemes given by the state for the benefit of the people, so etc. So, all this was collected and it was on a whole called as statistics, or we can always say that statistics means a facts and figures, a record of the facts and figures. Statistics was regarded as a byproduct of administrative activities of the state. So, it is a byproduct of administrative activities. So, whatever the activities the state used to undertake, so all those activities for the benefit of the people, it had to be recorded, and each of this, so whatever activities were done, so they were recorded in terms of facts and figures. Now, statistics is usually not studied for its own sake as a separate branch, but is employed as a tool in solving or analyzing the problems of the state. So, now statistics is not a separate discipline as such, but then it is used as a tool in almost all the kind of discipline. So, it is employed as a tool in solving or analyzing the problems of the state. Now, what do we mean by problems of the state? Suppose the state is faced with any of the flood problem, or there may be any natural calamities, then it is the duty of the state to see how many births, how many deaths have occurred, and it also the duty of the state to see that the people who have faced this tragedy, they are properly compensated. And what is the kind of compensation you are fixing? So, what kind of a injury, etc. So, in this way, so in a welfare state, it is the duty of the state to look after the welfare of the citizens, and its citizens are to be taken care of by the state. So, whatever is the medical expenses because of the natural calamities, it has to be borne by the state, and what amount of medical facilities and what is the expenditure they have just done on these medical facilities, all have to be recorded, and all facts and figures have to be recorded and maintained by the state, so that they will account for whatever money they have collected. So, any government for that matter, it will run on the revenue collected in the form of tax. Now, whatever the tax the government is collecting, so it will be for the benefit of the people. So, it will have to be spent for the benefit or the welfare of the people as such, and it will be the duty of the government to see that whatever money is collected, it will be well spent. Next, let us understand the meaning of the word statistics. Statistics has been defined by various authors differently. In olden days, statistics meant the data relation to the activities of the state collected for official purposes. So, in the olden days, statistics meant the data collected by the government for official purposes. So, whatever the money they have spent for the sake of the people, so all those record of all the numbers, they were called as statistics. But gradually it gained broader meaning because of its wider applicability in various problems apart from the state activity. So, before we meant by statistics, we meant only a record of all the activities of the state. But now, gradually, it is getting a broader meaning because of its wide applicability. Now, statistics is being applied in almost every area of life. Whether you have to do research, whether it is a research in the field of science, whether it is a research in the field of accountancy, research in the field of any discipline, we take the help of statistics to analyze whatever the data we have collected. So, statistics has become an important tool for all of us. Now, next, let us see what is the meaning of the word statistics. By statistics, we mean aggregates of facts. So, aggregates of facts means, so we need to have the total of the facts. What is this total of the facts? So, for example, if I have to ask the percentage of the students of the result of their result in the 10th standard, so they will just tell the percentage. So, when they tell the percentage, I will be able to assess what kind of a student he is. So, if he tells that he is a 90%, if he has scored 90% in SSLC exam, then that means that student is quite intelligent and he is a distinction student. But then if he says that he has secured a first class, then that means he is an average student. So, in this way, I can just interpret what kind of a student he is when I hear what is the percentage of marks he has scored in the previous exam. So, this is based on the aggregate of facts. So, the aggregate of all the subjects and you find the average, only then I will be able to get an inference of his intelligence. So, otherwise, and if he just tells that he has scored 100 in maths, so that does not give any meaning. So, only when I aggregate all the facts, only I can infer a meaning from the numbers. So, by statistics, so statistics will help us to gain inferences into the facts and figures whatever we have collected. So, with the help of average, I can be able to know what is the intelligence level of that particular student. Then next, affected to a marked extent by multiplicity of causes. So, what is this multiplicity of causes? So, statistics means it is always a collection of facts and figures. So, these facts and figures may be affected by a multiplicity. There are various factors which influence these numbers. Then numerically expressed. So, what is this numerically expressed? So, whenever we are collecting the facts and figures, it will be usually in the form of numbers. So, whatever can be quantified or which can be expressed in numbers, only that we can take it as statistics. And all those qualitative items, if we can express it in numbers only, then they can be held as statistics, enumerated or estimated. So, whatever is the statistics we are collecting, it should be enumerated or estimated. Suppose I take the measurement of the distance between two cities A and B, C and D. So, I will have to just go and physically just measure the distance between the two cities. So, it has to be enumerated in the form of numbers or estimated. If I am not able to give it the exact distance, I can at least give an approximate distance between the two cities. The enumerated or estimated according to reasonable standard of accuracy. So, when you are enumerating or estimating, they should be a reasonable standard of accuracy. Now, why we mention the reasonable standard of accuracy means, so when we are measuring different types of different products or anything, so they need a certain amount of accuracy. Suppose you are measuring a piece of cloth, then every inch will count. Whereas if you are measuring a road distance from one place to another, inches don't matter. So we should be accurate in terms of the what kind of things we are measuring, collected in a systematic manner. So whatever we are doing, whatever facts and figures we are collecting, the collection should be done in a systematic manner. We should have a plan for collection of the data for a predetermined purpose and placed in relation to each other. So whatever facts and figures we are collecting, it should be for a predetermined purpose. So there should be a purpose behind collecting the facts and figures. So without any purpose, we cannot just collect the facts and figures and placed in relation to each other. That means we have to place all these facts in relation to each other. So we need to correlate the facts. So a person who is good in maths will be good in stats also. So in this way, you try to correlate things and compare the things. So all this become a part of statistics. So statistical analysis, there are various tools of statistical analysis which will help us to compare the things, what things are directly proportional, what things are indirectly proportional, and what things are correlational. So all these things come under statistics. Next, let us look into the functions of statistics. Now, what do we mean by functions of the statistics? Now, what is the work of statistics? First one is it simplifies complexity. So, whatever the complex facts and figures we have collected, so if you need to write a paragraph, you can write pages about it. But then, if you can express it in a form of a simple table, then that will be the best thing you can do, because instead of reading the whole paragraph, when you just read the table, we will be able to understand what are the facts and figures relating to a particular issue. So it reduces the complexity of the facts. Second one is it presents facts in a definite form. So whatever the facts you have collected, so whatever the statistical data you have collected, you will be able to present it in a definite form. It may be in the form of a bar graph. You can just show what are the exports of various commodities of a country or what are the imports, and you can also express in the form of a pie chart. So you will be able to know what is the distribution of the natural resources. So any information relating to any subject under any issue, it can be diagrammatically expressed with the help of statistics. Then it facilitates comparison. So statistics facilitates comparison. What kind of a comparison? Again, going back to the same example, if I can ask two students about what is their score in the 10th or the PU exams, so they will be able to tell. One may say I got 90%, the other may say I got 80%. So I can assess who is better, who is better in terms of his intellectual capacity. So in this way, statistics will help us to compare the facts. Then next one is it enlarges individual experiences. So statistics helps in enlarging individual experiences. So when we are collecting the statistics of all the various people, so if you are collecting the performance of the workers of a factory, then for each performance will be recorded and then analyzed. So in this way, we can enlarge the individual experience of each person. It helps in formulating and testing the hypothesis. So if you are undertaking research and if you are having a hypothesis, then how do you formulate the hypothesis and how do you test the hypothesis? All this will be the function of statistics. It tests the laws of other sciences. So test the laws of other sciences means there are various sciences under which they will be observing facts, and these observations are all based on the statistics. then it foresees future courses. So with the help of stats, if you have the data relating to the past 10 years of any company, so the profits of the particular company for the past 10 years, so based on the profit, based on the data available, we can always forecast for the profits for the next few years. So it foresees the future courses. Then it studies relationship. So statistics studies relationship. What kind of a relationship does it study? So when you are given two variables, we can always draw a relation between two variables. So when the demand for the sales goes up, the prices of the goods goes up. So when the demand for a good goes up, so if there is a lot of demand for a particular product, then automatically the price of that particular product will shoot up. So we find a correlation, a relationship between the price and the demand. Then it helps the government. So how does the statistics help the government? The statistics will help the government by giving it with all the facts and figures it needs. So what are the policies which are to be formulated? What is the level of the people of that particular region? So what kind of infrastructure they have? What are the infrastructure they need? So how many villages are there in India without electricity? How many villages are there in India without a water supply? And how many villages are there in India without schools and colleges? So statistics of all this will help the government to reach out to those areas and take up all the necessary welfare activities. So it helps the government. Then next, what are the limitations of statistics? Firstly, statistics does not deal with individual items. So statistics is always collected with the aggregate of facts. So it does not deal with individual items at all. So it will just, we can only draw an inference only if we have a collection of facts, and as such it does not deal with individual items. Then it deals with quantitative data only. So what is this quantitative data? So it deals with data only which can be expressed in numerical terms. So those data which cannot be expressed in numerical terms, that we cannot take under the purview of statistics. However, we have the scaling technique with the help of which we can always take it under the purview of the qualitative data. Statistics may be misled to long conclusions in the absence of details. So the statistics, with the help of statistics, it may give us wrong conclusions. If there are any two students in a class, and if we say that there is a 50% result, it means that out of two students, one student has failed and one student has passed. So this gives us misleading results. So whatever the result, their conclusions they are drawing, it may be misleading. Then statistical laws are true only on average. So statistical laws are always based on averages. So first you find out the mean, then you find out the mean deviation, and then the standard deviation, and then the coefficient of variation. So it will be always based on averages, and it does not reveal the entire story. So whatever statistics we are collecting, it will be expressed as percentages as such, but it will not tell us the real story whatever has happened. So the data should be uniform and homogeneous. So whatever the statistical data we have collected, it should be uniform and homogeneous. So uniform data should be collected and similar data should be collected. But if we are collecting different data from different people, then whatever statistical inferences you get, they may be wrong. Then statistics is liable to be misused. So statistics can be misused by the government, by the politicians, by the people, by the researchers. So a lot of people who make use of the statistics, they are misusing the statistics. Now next, let us look into the collection of data. So statistics deals with collection of data. So collection of data is the process of enumeration together with the proper recording of results. The success of an inquiry is based upon the proper collection of data. So what do we mean by collection of data? Collection of data is the process of enumeration. That is, you collect the data, you enumerate the data together with proper recording of result. So you collect the data and record the data. So that is what we mean by collection of data. The success of an inquiry is based upon the proper collection of data. So how do you collect the data and how do you record the data? That becomes important in the field of statistics. Next, we have two types of data. One is the primary data, the second one is the secondary data. Now, let us understand what do we mean by primary data and what is secondary data. So, statistics may be defined as primary and secondary data. Primary data are those which are collected for the first time and they are original in character. So, the data which are collected directly from the universe or from the population, we call it as primary data. If an individual or an office collects the data to study a particular problem, the data are the raw materials of the inquiry. So, if there is any issue in any of the offices and whatever data they are collecting, whether it may be any information through the interview or any method they collect, so that becomes the raw material for the data. So, they are primary data collected by the investigator himself to study any particular problem. So, if there is any problem, so whatever the data he collects, that becomes the primary data. Secondary data are those which are already collected by some purpose and are available for the present study. So, the secondary data means, so it will not be collected by the investigator himself. Somebody would have collected the data and he would have made a recording of it. Now, if you make use of that data which has been collected by somebody else, that we call it as the secondary data. So, the data collected during census operations are primary data to the Department of Census, and the same data, if used by a research worker for some study, they become the secondary data. So, the census collection by the government, that becomes primary data for the government, but if the same census collection of census data is used by a research worker, then that becomes a part of the secondary data. Then, collection of primary data methods. What are the various methods in which we can collect primary data? The first one is the direct personal observation. Then, secondly, we have the indirect oral interview. Third one is information through agencies. Fourth one is mailed questionnaires. Fifth one is schedules sent through enumerators. So, these are the 5 methods of data collection. In this, the first one is direct personal observation. Now, under this method, the data is collected by the investigator personally. So, he must be a keen observer, tactful and courteous in behavior. So, in this direct personal observation, the investor himself, he will be an observer of the data. So, he must be tactful, he must be courteous in behavior and he must be a keen observer. He asks for or cross-examines the informant and collects the necessary information. The inquiry is intensive rather than extensive. So, whatever data he needs, he will be collecting from the respondent. For instance, if one wants to study the living conditions of the people in a village, he has to go to the village, contact the people and get the needed information. It is original in character. So, the person who is in this kind of a primary data collection method, so the investigator has to personally go to the village, stay there with the people and then collect the information. Then, the second method of data collection is indirect oral interview. When the informant is reluctant to supply information, the method of direct oral investigation cannot be followed. So, the investigator approaches the witnesses of third parties who are in touch with the informant. So, in this indirect oral interview, the investigator will approach all the persons who are connected with the particular respondent and he collects the information from them. So, when do we adopt this method? When the informant does not want to divulge any information, then we can use this indirect oral interview. Then information through agencies. So local agents or respondents will be appointed. They collect the information, transmit it to the office or person. They do according to their own ways and taste. So you can always appoint the correspondents or the informants who will be appointed exclusively to collect the information. So whatever information they collect, they will be sending it to the office. So this is adopted by newspapers and agencies, periodicals. So when information is needed, so the newspapers, the publications, magazines, etc., they will appoint correspondents or the informants in particular geographical areas who will approach those areas in case of strikes, riots, accidents, share market, sports, politics, etc. They are generally called the correspondents. So with the help of the correspondents, you can take information, whether it is relating to a strike, a riot, or market, or stock market, politics, etc. Now, the next method of collection of primary data is mailed questionnaires. Now, what is this mailed questionnaire? So, we prepare a questionnaire relating to the information to be collected and mail it to the respondents. So, it becomes the mailed questionnaire. So, a list of questions pertaining to the inquiry is prepared. There are blank spaces for the answers, and this question is sent to the respondents who are expected to write the answers in the blank spaces. A covering letter is also sent along with the questionnaire, requesting the respondent to extend a full cooperation by giving the correct replies and returning the questionnaire by filling it duly filled in time. So, in case of the mailed questionnaire method, you just mail the questionnaire, list of questionnaire to the respondents who will just fill in all the blank spaces and send it to you. So, in this way, we can always correct the information. Then next is schedules sent through enumerators. So, most widely used method of primary data. So, number of enumerators are trained and selected. They are provided with standardized questionnaires. Specific training instructions are given for filling up schedules. Each enumerator will be in charge of a certain area. The investigator goes to the informants along with the questionnaire, gets the replies and records their answers. So, this is one of the most popular methods of collecting the information. So, you send enumerators to that particular area. They will ask questions, collect the answers, and they themselves will record all the information, whatever they have collected. So, with this, we come to the end of this session. Hope you have all followed. Thank you.